rise again to glory then, soaring to the sky. If you stop and see, then you just might believe. We're unstoppable, powerful, enough to beat the odds. If you love me, you will see the flames inside of me.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Seduce Me, the Demon War. One thing before I start this... Spoilers! I'm getting spoilers in the comments already. It's only been one episode. It's only been one episode and I'm already getting spoilers. So I'm gonna ask you to keep it to yourself or write it in your dream journal or something. Not in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Thanks, load. Even the game's like, keep the spoilers to yourself. Where the hell am I? No, it's not September. Yes, it's September. Is it? Right here. Ha ha ha. Got it. Wait, just so we get the line.
You. What are you doing here?
I'm on a vacation. I looked up, finally having the courage to take in my surroundings. My heart stopped beating for a moment, seizing in my chest. Faye's just so happy to be here. Still don't know what you are. I looked up to see 5 figures, strangers, monsters, beings I didn't recognize. They all looked down at me in surprise, as if I had dropped in at a very bad time. I don't think there was a good time. One man looked like an orc from a fantasy game without the tusks. He had a broken horn. He had broken horns. When horn's not broken, whatever. And a very frightening aura around him as he stared at me. And the other male was lank in comparison, and more human-like, but I could almost feel power emanating from him regardless. One of the women who was staring at me had rabbit ears. Rabbit ears! They twitched on top of her head as she looked at me and gripped her staff. She seemed harmless, yet she had animal ears. The one creature that I couldn't discern the sex of seemed more excited to see me than surprised. What freaked me out more was that they had wings and sticking out of their back, and they were floating. The last woman, however, set off alarm bells in my head as I looked at her surprised face, her hair, her eyes. Diana? Hello. As she stared, the woman turned her body towards me in recognition to the name I called her. It was her.
What are you doing here?
Like I said, I'm on vacation. Kayak sent me here. Pretty good rates. Got a room open, I see. War? Nah, it's fine. Diana walked towards me and stared down at me. It was odd. She didn't... That is a big-ass bug. What the fuck are you, a fairy? Oh my god. Ugh. Oh my god. Oh, you're huge. You just stay on my ceiling. Diana walked towards me and stared down at me. It was odd. She didn't look like a human, yet I wasn't afraid of her demon form as it towered over me. I was more in shock as to what was going on. I love you. Before Diana could speak further, most likely to repeat herself, a figure quickly stepped up and bowed to her, kneeling beside me.
My lady, please forgive me. I felt something moving between our worlds and assumed the Demon Lord was to blame, so I intercepted his summoning of this human.
You. So I wasn't the only one who felt the change in the air.
Diana stared at the man kneeling beside me as I kept my eyes up at her. As she turned her gaze back to me, I gulped silently. What was she gonna do with me? This all felt wrong. I was about to be married, for God's sakes! I was about to live my happily ever after with the man I loved. Now I was in a place I didn't know, with Diana and a bunch of other creatures I didn't recognize. My instinct was to... Last time I screamed. I don't want to attack her. Just stay still, I guess. I couldn't move. My mind was empty of emotions except for fear. Why was this happening? Where was I? Why was Diana here? Diana stared down at me before sighing and kneeling down to my level. As she settled onto her knees, I leaned away from her, unsure of what she'd do. Was she going to kiss me again and take my energy? Knowing her, maybe.
Can you tell me what happened?
You're so nice comparing to the first game. I didn't want to speak. I felt no courage to. My mind was so wrapped around this chaos that I felt nothing but fear and anxiousness. This couldn't have been happening. I was dreaming, yeah.
Is she okay?
Oh, there's one behind me. Stop breakdancing, dog. I'm trying to read. I love you.
I don't think so.
This is a waste of our time. Just kill her or something.
Yes, because that's a smart thing to do. Kill someone who is clearly traumatized and has done nothing to deserve death. Brilliant idea. Bravo.
Oh, the sarcasm is real. Love you. Diana continued to stare at me, waiting for me to answer. Why? She didn't cast a spell on me, nor did she attack me. What are you doing behind me? Huh. She continued to wait and stare. Slowly my mind began to sink into the situation. Diana was willing to listen. Was she willing to help? That was another question. But first I had to answer her. Dude, I like being at high risk. I live like Larry. Get out of here. My voice didn't want to answer still, so I forced to nod, wanting to answer her somehow. Diana smiled softly, which conflicted with my memories of her. She never smiled like that, yet she was now. Diana held out her hand, ushering me to take it.
Can you stand?
I nodded again and took her hand, standing up at last. I looked around at the other beings in the room. They all kept their gaze to me, unsure of what I would do or say. Diana, however, led the conversation.
First, can you tell me what happened to you?
I took a breath, recounting everything that happened. I was about to go to church to be married, and then I was attacked by this darkness. A couple of hands grabbed my legs and pulled me into it, and then I fell here.
Shadow summoning.
Dun dun dun. Diana turned to one of the beings in the lanky male and glared.
One of yours couldn't have.
On my honor, it wasn't any of mine. We have nothing to gain from kidnapping a human. Nor do we know who this woman is, anyhow.
My lady, if I may, I clearly remember hearing imp demons in the void along with her. It must have been the Demon Lord's henchmen.
Should have screamed in the void.
Those damnable creatures. That explains it.
Diana crossed her arms and looked to me again.
Well, dear, it seems that you were to be either a new harem girl for the Demon Lord to ravish, or bait for the boys to return to their father's side. Either way, I doubt you would have lived long had the Demon Lord gotten his hands on you.
A violent shiver ran up my spine. Was it true? Would I have died?
Wait a minute. This girl knows about the Demon Lord's heirs?
Yes. Hilariously enough, she was set to marry one of them, as you can see from her garb.
As Diana motioned towards my dress, I realized how vulnerable I was and felt extremely self-conscious. I wrapped my arms around myself as Diana let out a sigh.
Well, since you do not belong here, the obvious thing to do is to send you home.
Yes, please. I couldn't help but stare wide-eyed at Diana. She was really going to send me home. Really? I couldn't believe my ears. You will really send me back?
Of course. It should be easy to do once everything is in order. It'll be like you never left the human world.
Wait, like I never left the human world? Look around you, Sexto. How dense can you get? What do you mean by left the human world? Look around you. He's not wearing pants. His hair looks like hands. She's naked. Sarah's a little bit purple. Diana stared before chuckling softly and gesturing to the room and beings within it.
Dear, do you not realize where you are? You are in the demon world.
My mind went blank. Oh my goodness. It couldn't be. I couldn't be in the demon world. No way in hell. These are just guys in costumes. Happy Halloween. I felt myself back up against the wall behind me, suddenly afraid I was in another world. How? That was impossible. Diana stepped towards me, both her hands softly trying to show me that she meant no harm as she positioned them in front of her body.
Do not panic. We will send you back now, so there's nothing to worry about.
How will you power the spell? Bringing someone here is no easy task, but sending someone back consumes much more energy.
Don't worry. Sato's got that under control.
I'll use what energy I have now and rest. We can organize the siege another time when I fully recover. It's not like the Demon Lord can escape the corner we've trapped him in, so we do have some time to spare.
You'd waste time and energy on this human. We must strike now while the Demon Lord is weakened.
But the human doesn't belong here. She needs to go home.
Yeah, I'm like a bug that somehow makes it inside the house, and you're like, oh no, little bug, I gotta get you back to your home. So you gently put it on a piece of paper, put it outside. I'm kind of like that. I'm a little caterpillar.
Shall I prepare the return spell?
I'm a little caterpillar. At the end of this game, I'm gonna blossom like a butterfly.
Do.
Wow.
I grant you permission to use my energy to power the spell.
That was that was a speech I just gave. With a nod, the lanky man held out his hand towards the wall. I looked over in the direction it was aimed at. Diana's shadow? I watched as Diana's shadow simply stood against the wall, mirroring the movements of the real succubus in the room. Before my eyes, the shadow began to morph and expand on the wall on its own. I looked back to Diana to see her wrapping her arms around herself and curling her shoulders over. I always mess up on that line. As if she was in pain, her nails embedded themselves into her forearms, and I could barely make out a painful hiss escaping her clenched teeth. Was the spell hurting her? I turned back to the wall to see Diana's shadow shaking and vibrating, as if it was resisting the change the man was forcing.
You will obey my command. Open the gates to the void, and allow passage to the world we seek.
Transitum per renani et dulce nibis, ubi aperiunt, iannuio, deceptir.
Upon Diana's final word, her shadow burst and expanded into an oval-shaped doorway. I stared wide-eyed at the passage, before a hand placed itself on my shoulder, forcing me to look. The one with the spear gently pressed my shoulder forward and looked down at me with an almost stern face.
You must leave now. The faster you leave, the quicker we can close the void.
But I love you!
Go! Go! Go get married!
I will! I quickly nodded and lifted the bottom of my dress, stepping forward to make a run for the passageway. However, before I could bolt towards my freedom, a snarl echoed through the room.
How dare you interfere with my summoning!
At that very moment, Diana began to scream, arching her spine and throwing her head back. Around her body were red-tinted bolts of lightning flashing and shocking her form.
No! Human! Use the passage! Now!
He didn't have to tell me twice. I bolted towards the portal, diving forward as I neared it, but I was forced back by a burst of energy and a flash of red light. I fell to the floor and was slamming my head on the stone. I'm a turkey now.
Never! Ever! Leave this world alive! Use mindless word!
Close the portal! The Demon Lord might get through!
But the human...
Close it!
That drama, though. As commanded, the man pulled his hand back, visually forcing his arm back behind his body, and Diana's shadow quickly began to morph back into a simple shadow. The electricity around Diana faded away as she began to tip forward. The man with the spear dropped his weapon and caught Diana in his arms, cradling her to his body as she panted and gasped for air.
I don't sense the Demon Lord anywhere.
The worm has to scurry through the shadows to try and fight back. He'll be dead soon enough.
How is she, guard?
Diana seemed to look uninjured, but her body was twitching from the aftermath of the magical attack. Her visible eye was shut tight as she dug her fingers into the guard's jacket to cling to him. As her eye opened, I saw not a blood ruby red color, but I saw a cold and unfriendly golden color painted over her iris. Her mouth opened as she panted for air. I could see hunger in her facial expression, but she continued to stare at the wall, not wanting to make eye contact with anyone.
There are no physical wounds, but she's been weakened. I must give her my energy so she can recover.
Okay, have fun, you guys. Wink. So, looks like it's just me and you four. Sup? The man swiftly moved and hooked an arm underneath Diana's knees, lifting her up bridal style as she clung to his jacket, shivering. The spear that had fallen to the floor faded into a black and purple mist as he quickly left the room with her in his arms. My mind, however, began to panic. I couldn't go home. Why was I being forced to stay? Damn the Demon Lord. This wasn't right.
There's an imp in the castle. That is the only way the Demon Lord could have been able to interfere.
You! Guards by the door! Hunt it down!
Creaky stupid chair. A pair of guards that were apparently by the door saluted the one commanding them and ran off. I felt out of place. Alone, terrified as to what was going to happen. The Demon Lord wanted me here, and his words pounded in my mind. How was I going to get home? Would I ever be able to go home? Hey. I looked up to see the winged person hovering near me before they moved and sat on their knees on the stone ground beside me.
We'll get you home, okay? Diana just needs a little rest, okay?
She needs more than rest. She needs to use a different spell to send her back. The Demon Lord will expect her to use the shadow spell again.
How about the normal way? I'm sure we can connect to a witch, or even the warlock she used before, to reopen a portal to the human world.
The warlock she used to get to the human world died, remember? And he was the most powerful warlock in the human world, practically a god himself. What other human could be used to open a portal without another human dying?
Practically a god himself. Well, if he was, then he wouldn't have died, now would he, Rabbit? Would have he? Nope, he wouldn't have.
It was merely a suggestion. The faster we get this human home, the faster we can move on and finish off the Demon Lord.
Well, what are we going to do with a human now?
I want some Fruit Loops. Feed me some Fruit Loops, then I'll be happy.
We can give her a room to rest in. Humans need sleep after all. Maybe by the time she wakes up, we'll think of a solution.
Come.
Rabbit just looks so happy. The woman with the rabbit ears looked down at me and lowered her hand to me, inviting me to take it. She had a kind but concerned expression on her face, so I trusted her. I slowly took her hand and began to stand up as the fairy figure brushed off the small patches of dust that had accumulated on my dress. Blech. I couldn't do anything. I was forced to listen to the beings around me because there was nothing else I could do. Without them, I couldn't get home. My heart ached, but I had to accept my predicament.
Here, I'll bring you to the open ambassador's room. You are free to rest there for now.
I'm worried about Diana. The floating person giggled softly as a woman with the rabbit ears cleared her throat.
She'll be fine. She's being taken care of right now.
Why not just say she's getting fucked?
And the brute strikes again with the lack of tasteful filtering between his brain and his mouth. You still have yet to prove me wrong about my expectations of you.
I love you, even though you're a total asshole.
Keep testing me, assassin. I'm not afraid to rip your spine out of your body and use it as a back scratcher.
You can very well try, brute.
Ugh! Would you both knock it off?
Yeah, ladies.
Come. Everything will be taken care of.
Before I could protest, the woman led me out of the room and into the hall. But I want to hear those two more. They're funny. Oh man. I kept my eyes down, trying to take in more of the situation I was in. Irritous. I was trapped in the demon world and Diana was out of commission. The demon lord had plans for me, but what exactly was he aiming for? Sorry, I can see my face in the screen and it's bothering me. I could have been bait. I could have been revenge. I can still see myself talking. I shouldn't be so... Hi, me! Fuck. Alright. I didn't know, nor could I figure it out. At least I was safe. At least I hoped I was safe. Thank God. The woman led me to a room that practically screamed medieval fantasy. Everything was clean, but it still had an old age feel, as if no one had ever stepped foot in the room until that moment.
Rest here for now. When Diana is well again, we can discuss what to do.
Thank you. I nodded to the woman before she gently curtsied and left, closing the door behind her. I took a moment to observe my surroundings, interested in understanding the aesthetic. This was fantasy turned to reality. It was like I had gone back in time. Why though? Why was the demon world really that behind in the times, or did magic supersede technology, and this was the result? Despite the situation I was in, which was beyond heartbreaking and terrible, my curiosity began to fester in my mind, as if I was given a golden opportunity to learn something. However, my thoughts began to drift. I felt myself becoming weak and dizzy, no doubt from the shock and trauma I had gone through. I stumbled towards the bed, needing to sit down and let everything settle in without passing out. As my rear hit the mattress, however, I let out a small, pleasured sigh. Holy crap, this is a comfy mattress, man! I felt myself fall back and my entire body simply melted in the softness beneath my body. It was like I was sleeping on a cloud. Was that possible? Demon magic may have had something to do with it, but I was certain that I was drifting into an almost blissful sleep just by lying on the blankets on the mattress. My poor ear. Not caring that I was still in my dress, I closed my eyes and drifted to sleep. I needed the rest, since Diana wouldn't be available for a while anyway. A darkness surrounded my mind, and so did my own face. My dreams remaining silent and hushed in the cool and calm black. No nightmares appeared, and no sounds were made. I was simply resting, and that's all my body needed. I let my thoughts wander to my subconscious, thinking about what was going to happen now. What will the boys do when they realize I'm gone? What will he do? I imagined him finding a way through the demon world and pulling me back to where I belonged, wrapping me in his arms and swearing to never let me go. I would be relieved that we would be married just as we planned. How unrealistic was that? I had to be realistic right now. Realistic? You're in the... I was stuck, and the only one who seemed to be able to send me back was Diana and her companions, whoever they were. I had to trust them, whether I liked it or not. Eventually, I did rise from my sleep, somehow fully refreshed and calm. How could that have been?
Did you have a good rest?
I turned my head to see Diana at the door, arms crossed and leaning against the door's archway. She had a look of concern and pure curiosity on her face as she awaited my answer. Do you not know how to knock? Are you okay? Diana stared at me, slightly shocked. She did not expect me to ask.
Huh. Well, yes, I'm fine now that I've had proper rest.
That's good. Diana shook her head and stepped into the room, closing the door behind her.
So we need to find another way to get you back to the human world. It won't be easy, but I believe it can be done by tonight, at the latest.
Tonight, really? Diana nodded and crossed her arms again, leaning on one hip.
It will take time to get our shadow agents to gather the necessary supplies, but they are not hard to obtain, being that we're in a position of power. You must be lucky.
Well, what do you mean? Diana sighed before casting a short spell under her breath. In front of me appeared a floating map, almost like a hologram. It showed an entire world with mountains, plains, forest, and it was all surrounded by sea and water. Diana pointed at a marker that had a purple banner at its tip. It was a market... Okay. Ooh. It was marked in the center of some mountain and forest area. It was also the very center of the map.
That is where we are currently, the center of the abyssal plains.
Oh, I turned my neck and cracked it in the worst way. Diana then ran her finger in a circle around the marker, showing a perimeter around it.
Everything we need for the spell is within this area. It will just take time to gather the materials and prepare it.
I nodded, understanding the situation. I was going to hopefully be able to go home tonight, which was better than not going home at all. So what should I do until then?
My suggestion? Stay in this room. I can mark this room as off-limits so that no demon may enter that would confuse you for an intruder and kill you.
I gulped. I did not want to die. As Diana made the magical map disappear, she shrugged.
However, I cannot stop you from whatever you wish to do. Just don't leave the castle.
I nodded as she turned to leave and stepped out. Diana looked to me with a reassuring look.
We'll get you back to the human world. I promise you that.
Finally, she left me alone in the room. I let out a small sigh and looked up at what the ceiling had to offer. Yeah, that's what I was gonna read. It's not even there. I let out a small sigh and looked up at the ceiling. I had to wait until tonight to actually do anything. What was I gonna do? Part of me agreed with Diana's suggestion, wanting to stay in the room and be safe in case the guards didn't know who I was and would kill me on sight. My curiosity, however, wouldn't leave me alone and wanted me to explore the castle. I was handed an opportunity to explore the castle in the demon world, and part of me did not want it to go to waste. I was torn on what to do. Actually, we're gonna try staying in the room for once, see what happens. It was better to be safe than sorry. I fell back into the bed and closed my eyes, contemplating taking a nap to make time go by faster. Staying in my room was the best option for me, both so I wouldn't get lost and that I'd be okay in case the guards were on duty. I let out a small sigh before looking around the room. Was there anything I wanted to look at closer?
Excuse me.
Oh. Yes. Did I actually ever stay in the room? I can't remember. Before I could find anything, I looked at the door towards the voice. Peeking in was the rabbit woman, cautiously remaining behind the door while looking at me.
Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, I am. Thank you. Please come in. I trusted this woman, despite barely knowing her. She assisted me in coming to this room, and she was one of Diana's comrades, so I felt that I could put my trust in her. The woman nodded before stepping into the room and closing the door behind her. She turned to me and stood by the door.
I'm assuming Diana told you about the situation.
Yeah, I'll be back home tonight. That's the hope anyway.
Yes. We sent our agents as soon as we knew what we had to gather. We're positive they will turn up before nightfall, and we'll be able to cast a gateway spell.
I nodded and let out a small sigh. It would be a long wait, but it would be worth it if it worked. The woman, however, took a step forward.
May I ask you something?
I looked at the woman, slightly confused. Sure, go ahead. What is it?
Well,
I watched as the woman reached up and rubbed one of her ears, almost in nervousness. What was she nervous about? Finally, she spoke up, releasing her ear.
Would you mind if I asked you about the human world?
Girl, I could tell you stories. Sit down. It'll be a while. The human world. Why would she be curious about the human world? She was a demon that looked like an... The fuck is that word? Furry! Rabbit. The woman hugged her large staff against her body as she shrugged.
How are things like in the human world? Is there equality amongst your races? I've only heard stories, but since you're a human yourself, you would know.
My mind would back the social life of the human world. At least in America, we claim to be equal, but we had major prejudice amongst our races, whether we liked it or not. I found myself being on the neutral ground, not wishing to be extreme in either opinion, but knowing the difference between what was morally right and wrong. I looked at the woman and shook my head, making her eyes widen slightly. We're not exactly equal. I mean, we try, but we're pretty divided. However, it's only one of many problems we face. The woman nodded before walking over and sitting down on the bed beside me.
I see. Are there major wars fought because of it?
In a way, we have marches and movements, but we at least try not to escalate it to war where I live. It's better to resolve things without violence.
That's smart. I hope that equality can be found in your world.
What about here? The woman shook her head and her smile turning a bit grim. I could tell that things were rough here, just from looking at her expression.
We have sort of a caste system here. What kind of demon you are determines what life you live. Demons of Lilith like Diana are usually royals and nobles, while animal demons like me are much lower in the ranks.
I could hear her anger and shame just from her voice alone. Were things really that bad here? That's horrible, I'm so sorry.
It's alright. That's why I joined the rebellion. We intend to make changes, make it better. I want to be part of that and help fix things.
There was a confidence in her words that didn't match the look in her eyes. She knew something was off in what she said, but she expressed it in any way as her reply to me. What the hell? I didn't know whether or not to be proud or keep silent. Too proud or keep silent, I don't know. Wouldn't be here long, so I decided to keep my mouth shut. The woman shook her head out, as if she was scattering the thoughts from her mind, and looked at me.
So, you are getting married. You must be excited to get back with your family and soon-to-be partner.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to go back! For a brief moment, I nearly forgotten that I was getting married. My mind began to wander to the one who was waiting for me, making my heart ache. As I looked down to my lap, the rabbit woman looked down as well.
I'm
I can't
sorry.
stop.
I didn't mean to make you upset, but you will be home soon.
I nodded. I shouldn't have let it get me down, but I really did miss being in the human world. I think anyone in my situation would understand, especially since I was a bride. I looked at my hand, seeing the engagement ring, and imagining the wedding ring that was made for me replacing it. Soon enough, it would be on my finger, and I would be able to continue living my life as normal. Pulling myself out of my thoughts, I looked at the woman as she stood and bowed to me.
Well, I shall leave you be. I will bring food whenever it is ready, so that you don't starve.
Thank you. I appreciate it. With that, the woman left, leaving me alone in the room to wait. I remained in my room until night came. I was given food, which looked like soup. The woman who gave it to me apologized, letting me know that the food was scarce until the upcoming harvest, which was a couple days away. Being that I was only staying the day, I didn't mind much. I was more concerned over what I was given to eat. It was some sort of stew with mysterious chunks swimming in its broth. It smelled surprisingly good, but who knew how it tasted? Just eat it. Man up! I gulped. Had to try it. I had to eat it. I hadn't eaten in 2 days, even before I came to the demon world. I was pretty certain Diana wouldn't poison me now. I was fairly sure that she wouldn't serve me anything disgusting. I lifted the spoon that was sitting in the broth, letting it capture some of the stew as it rose. I mean, it wasn't terribly scary to look at. I gulped and slowly brought the spoon to my lips, feeling the heat emanate from the stew. A knock rapped on my door. Wish up. Breaking me out of my train of thought. Come in. The door opened to reveal Diana with a plate holding things I recognized. Bread and cheese. I let out a heavy sigh of relief before Diana laughed.
I suggest not trying that. As good as it smells, the taste would not sit well with you.
Instantly, I moved the bowl to a nearby table, thankful that I did not have to try it. Diana handed me the plate and nodded, reassuring me that what was on the plate was indeed what it seemed.
It's not much, but it's human food. Eat up.
I will. I began to chow down, feeling the hunger in my stomach dissipate with each bite and swallow. The food I was eating surprisingly was delicious. As I began to crave something to drink, Diana chuckled and poured a small goblet in her hands, filled with clear liquid that I assumed to be water. I took it and drank it down, feeling my thirst quenched before I let out a sigh. I feel so much better.
I can tell. Take a moment to finish eating. Then we'll head for the ritual.
I looked up to Diana, suddenly excited. Everything was prepared for? Was it possible to go home now? As if she read my mind, she smiled and nodded.
We finished the main preparations. We just need to head over and we'll start.
I couldn't continue eating. My mind went to an obsessive frenzy of wanting to go home. I stood up, moving the plate and goblet to a nearby table. Let's go.
Huh? Are you sure?
I nodded, not wanting to waste any more time. I needed to get home, and I was tired of waiting. Diana stared before nodding and heading for the door, opening it for me, and exiting after me. As she closed the door behind her, I began to feel my heart flutter in relieved joy. I was heading home. Hi, everybody. Diana led me down the corridors to the war room, where I had originally arrived, to reveal the table covered in plants and artifacts of different kinds. None of it made sense to me, but I'd only assume it was what was needed for the spell to work. Diana walked the table and took note of what she saw, nodding.
This should work.
You're in doubt?
Have to be after the last time we tried sending her home. Do we have a human anchor?
No, you're on your own this time. But we'll make sure you survive casting it.
This spell should work, however, because we'll be using energy material. It will only require a slice of your energy on top of these items, which your guard can refill immediately after this.
Just make sure you don't die casting it.
Diana smiled at her guard before turning to me.
So, are you ready to return home?
She didn't have to ask. I'm ready. Diana nodded once more before turning back to the table. She lifted her arms over the surface and lowered her head, muttering under her breath.
Otnibris portas, apriat nobis, largiatur exidium.
As she spoke, the table began to glow as she did. As did she. Same thing. A dark purple aura began to surround her form, and as she lifted and arched her back, staring at the ceiling. A glimpse of her... I can't read with the sound in my ears! A glimpse at her eyes made me gasp. Warm gold orbs covered her blood-red irises, glowing with magic. She was deep within the spell, and I could see it slowly draw energy from her body. The items on the table began to gleam wildly, light orbs floating from them and dancing in the air above the table's surface. They began to weave back and forth with each other, almost as if the lights were dancing to a silent tune. The other demons stepped back as Diana moved her arms up and pointed to the dancing lights. Her finger pointed it into the air, leading the lights to follow where it directed obediently. She drew a large circle in the air, and the lights... I heard something. And the lights followed with like a perfect trail, spreading out and forming a large void in the air. As they finally stopped moving, they burst into a bright light, causing the demons and I to cover our eyes from it. It didn't go through the room, but died down just as fast, revealing a small tear in the air. Dana quickly leaned forward and dug her hands into it before pulling the tear apart, revealing my bedroom! Dana continued to pull the tear open, giving enough space for me to jump through.
Hurry and go through! This is your chance!
I wasn't going to let it go to waste. I gripped the bottom of my dress and rushed forward, using momentum to jump to the air and forward towards the void. I could almost reach. I could feel the air conditioning of my room right at my fingertips. I was...
She will never leave this world alive!
Screwed. The Demon Lord's voice rang through the air just as I saw my fingertips pass through the tear. What stopped the rest of my body was a red light and force, forcing me and Diana back from the opening. Gah! I felt my body fly backwards and slam into the wall before I landed on the stone ground. I heard Diana as well land beside me with a painful thud. I looked up and felt my heart break as the tear became wrapped in red lightning, zipping itself closed and vanishing into thin air. No, this could not be.
Damn it!
It should have worked. How could it have failed?
We must have missed something. Was there anything we had forgotten?
No. I verified everything myself.
Then why was the Demon Lord able to overpower a gate spell?
I highly doubt you know either, brute.
Stop fighting! We need to make a plan, and all of you are just being stupid! Stupid, 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 stupid!
Are you alright, Isaiah?
I don't care about nothing. He's like, my baby!
I'm fine. It is.
I was too lost in my mind to fully understand what was going on around me. I was so close I felt the other side. I had almost made it home. Why couldn't I go home? Diana's grunt of pain next to me made me shoot my head towards her, and I watched her slowly push herself off the ground and glare at the table.
The Demon Lord must have done something more than simply bring her here.
What could he have done?
Now, the Demon Lord is incapable of doing anything of the sort. His lackey imps must have done something to her.
A spell?
The curse.
I looked to the rabbit woman, seeing her stare wide-eyed at me. The other demons stared at me as well, and suddenly I felt like I was on display. Was something wrong with me?
She will not leave the demon world alive. He must have placed some sort of curse on her to prevent her from leaving this plane. In order to leave, she'd have to die.
What? My mind went blank. Did the Demon Lord really curse me? Was I forced to stay in this world until I died? I could never go back?
Are you suggesting a barrier curse?
That would explain the red energy that sealed the tear.
But dark magic like that requires...
Blood of 1,000 demons. He must have sacrificed part of his army to cast a curse on her that would prevent her from leaving.
The Demon Lord is that desperate for her. The only way to break that kind of curse is to kill the caster, the Demon Lord himself.
She's trapped here until this war is over.
My body began to shiver violently. The Demon Lord killed 1,000 demons just to trap me here? Why? Why? I slammed my fist into the ground and began to scream. I want to go home. Why? Just why? I could feel the sympathy and anger in the room, but I didn't care. I was beyond livid. I was far past broken. I was seeing red. So, nothing explains this right here. My voice ripped through the air. A bright light erupted through the room once again. Everyone covered their eyes, but Diana quickly scrambled to get on her knees and cover me with her body. She held me tightly as the light evaded the space and slowly began to fade. As the light finally died, everyone moved their hands to see what had happened. In the air was a white tear that was slowly opening, facing down towards the table. Something was coming. I could feel it in the air. The guard summoned his spear and pointed it at the tear, glaring at it and gritting his teeth.
Something's coming!
No shit, Sherlock. In reply, Diana summoned what looked like two saber and placed it in front of us.
Ready yourselves! It could be the Demon Lord!
The other demons in the room readied themselves and stared at the tear, either holding a weapon or preparing a spell. I felt the air change, becoming heavier as the tear began to grow. The energy around it began to pulsate, making everyone in the room that much more tense. I stared at the tear as well, frightened as to what was coming. Was it the Demon Lord, his minions? My mind began to cycle through fearful thoughts of what was about to appear. Shaking in my boots, boys. My heart almost stopped. Falling from the tear and landing on the table were 5 Incubi brothers. They were piled on top of one another, having come through one at a time. However, as the last brother landed, the boys fell to one side, toppling off the table and landing on the floor. The rebels around me stared at the fallen pile of Incubi, confused and surprised as the tear in the air closed. The org man was the first to lower his sword.
What the hell?
Who are they?
Careful! They could be the Demon Lord's men!
In a way. No! The rebels looked to me as I stood up, Diana following and still protecting me, as I stared at the boys on the ground. They all looked dazed and a bit shell-shocked from having fallen twice in a rapid succession. I almost couldn't believe it. There they were, right in front of me. My mind couldn't help but remember how I had first met them. They had all been on the floor of my mansion, unconscious and wounded. Now they were in front of me in the demon world. I know them. Maybe a little too well. Who's shorter, Matthew or No, Matthew's definitely shorter than Damien. Okay. Just curious. I stared at the one I was meant to marry, seeing him slowly shake his head and rise from the ground. They came to my rescue. They came to rescue me. Blech. He came to rescue me. My heart became Bengay. That's the first thing that came to my mind. Became overjoyed and full of warmth and happiness. I was gonna go home. The question was, how? As the sight of the boys kept the demon's attention, a second tear opened above them, causing everyone to look up. 4 women dropped down from the tear and somehow managed to fall into the arms of the incubi behind Erik.
Whoa!
You're cute.
I gotcha.
You're so cute, Twilight. Look at you. You're like a little fairy.
Whoa, are you okay?
You cute little thing. Yeah, you're okay. I like your socks.
I gotcha. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but it looks like they're holding hands. Just saying. Like them socks. Okay. James! You're cute.
Whoa, are you alright?
I started wide-eyed. Their wives came too. I watched as the boys and the girls finally planted themselves on the ground before looking around. As Erik spotted me, however, he began to rush towards me.
Princess!
Hi! Prince! I wanted to rush back to him. I wanted to run over, wrap my arms around him, his neck, and strangle the little bastard. No. I missed the touch of his lips, his embrace. My body would not allow me to move forward. In fact, I shied away and hid behind Diana, gripping her waist and averting my eyes from her. Diana, save me!
What the?
I don't know. See, I'm like her inner conscience, and I'm just like, Saxton, what the fuck are you doing? He's right there.
Still?
I guess. Oh, my heart hurts. Like, everybody's got their wives, and Eric's here like, Mr. Lonely, I have nobody to love. I shut my eyes despite my heart screaming at me to turn toward Erik. I knew that he wouldn't throw me to break this hold on me. What? So I wanted to look at him and let him. However, my body continued to duck behind Diana's body, avoiding Erik's gaze. Even Diana's confused at this point, like, what the girl? What are you doing? As I heard Erik step forward, Diana wrapped her arm back around her and placed it on my back. For some reason, I felt comforted by her touch. Was she casting a spell on me?
Diana, if you please.
Not until you explain what is going on. Why does she hide from you?
I assure you, it's not what you think.
I kicked her ass at Mario Kart the other day, and she's been hating me ever since.
I will not repeat my question.
Mr. Lonely, I have nobody. I felt Diana's hand clench over my back. I felt a natural elation wash over me at the protection she was providing me, but my heart cried out for Erik.
She does want to see Erik. Something's stopping her from doing that.
Okay, I will allow it this once. Something need to be said. Thank you, Damien, but that's the last time I'm gonna thank you for anything.
And I'm supposed to believe this.
I burned because of you, asshole.
Please, just let me.
Don't get Seto involved. This is getting sad. Damn it all. I watched from behind Diana as her guard quickly stepped forward and placed himself between Diana and Erik. No, baby! I don't want to fight again. Spirit pointing at my incubus.
I suggest not taking another step forward.
You put that stick away. Put it away, Sad.
Wait!
The rabbit-eared woman in the midst of my attention quickly rushed over to me and bent down to look me directly in the eyes. I looked at her, trying to convey my need to see Erik through my eyes.
Hold still, okay?
I'm scared.
What are you?
Ostende mihi kotum.
Staring into the woman's eyes, I watched as a warm gold hue painted over her sweetly pale blue eyes before she closed them. As if something had been unlocked, a large click resonated through my mind. All at once, I felt my will take control, and I stood up straight, now finally able to do what I desired without any resistance.
Love.
Hi, Erik! Good. We're not gonna have a sexless Seduce me. Thank God. I quickly ran around Diana and rushed toward Erik, wrapping my arms around his neck and strangling the little bastard and filling me in his own arms. His warm embrace made my heart squeeze in my chest as I held him close to me. I smiled as Erik kissed over my cheeks, his embrace conveying how beyond happy he was to have me back willingly in his arms. Kiss that boy, what are you talking about? I tightened my arms around Erik and tilted my head to kiss him. My heart fluttered at the touch and taste of his lips. They taste like lollipops. Against mine, he eagerly kissed me back, tightening his own hold on me lovingly. Diana turned to the rabbit-eared woman with a look of pure confusion on her face.
What? Just...
You know, it takes a lot to fluster Diana, and good job, Rabbit.
She's under some sort of secondary spell. Repulsion, it seems. What I cast on her was an emotional release spell, and that temporarily removed the hold on her.
Okay, how about instead of temporarily, we can get rid of it altogether?
But she's been here a full day, and none of us felt any sort of hold on her.
I don't feel any sort of feelings for any of you.
Well, we didn't exactly figure out that she was cursed either.
We're not the brightest bunch.
Cursed?
Oh yeah, I can't leave the Demon World unless I'm in a body bag, so... I felt Eric's hold on me tighten as I looked up at his face. He looked at Diana with an expression of full concern and confusion. As I heard Diana sigh, I turned slightly to watch her cross her arms.
Yes. She's been cursed by the Demon Lord. She cannot leave until she dies or until we kill him.
Finky and I looked at each other in surprise, but Eric kept his eyes to Diana and kept me tight in his embrace.
I'm assuming you plan to kill the Demon Lord, right? When will this happen?
Yes, in 1 week's time.
1 week?
Where is this number coming from, Succubus?
We need to fully prepare ourselves for the final stage, which I'm certain will only take a couple of days. We've pinned him into a corner. The Demon Lord will fall.
That's rather bold to assume.
She's right, though. We can prepare everything in that time frame, right?
And if he does the same and attacks us before then?
He won't.
I watched as Diana walked over and cleared the table of other materials they had gathered for the gate spell, revealing a physical map of the Abyssal Plains. She pointed to the spot on the map and a peninsula surrounded by water labeled as the Decaying Sea.
We'll cast a barrier spell along the edge of the peninsula and around the castle. He and his army won't be able to move from that spot until we break it ourselves, which will be during the siege.
Where would we get the energy needed for that kind of spell?
We won't be using energy.
The other rebel demons in the room suddenly tensed up, staring at Diana in surprise. What was she going to do?
My lady, you're not suggesting...
The Demon Lord has shown how far he is willing to go to win this war. It's only fitting to show the extent we'll go to in response.
As much as I agree with you, this seems a little rash.
What are you guys talking about?
Matthew doesn't understand!
Are they allowed to know?
I plan to put a barrier curse around the Demon Lord's castle and army. It's temporary, so it won't need the blood of 1,000 demons. But it will need the sacrifice of at least one demon life.
And I assume you'll be sacrificing one of my soldiers.
Is this our only option?
There are other options, but they will most likely take a lot of energy to pull off.
It just depends on what we want to do. If we want to do this immediately, then the barrier curse is indeed the best option.
I'm not opposed to performing the curse. As rash as it is, it will make our lives easier in the long run.
You expect me to hand over one of my men? My soldiers joined the rebellion to kill the Demon Lord, not to get their throats slit before even seeing the final battle?
It's wrong, but can we really afford to spend any more energy? Diana already spent a lot trying to send the human back.
What is the other option?
The rabbit woman and the fairy moved towards the map and pointed at the peninsula.
We could form tall rock walls around the castle. Box him in.
It will take a lot of our energy, but we can recover in that week period.
And what will stop the Demon Lord from tearing down the walls?
I can imbue the walls with holy magic.
Thank you, Bye, and I looked at him, all of a secretly surprised. A demon with holy magic? How?
How the fuck did you get holy magic? You look and smell like a demon.
The guard held up his wrapped hand, letting the beads around it jangle with a sudden motion.
I've had the ability to use holy magic ever since I was taken in by my lady's family. There's no doubt that I am a demon, but I can't recall how I gained this ability.
Woohoo for backstory! How is holy magic different than demon magic?
It's white magic. Unlike demon magic, holy magic isn't so finicky. Think of it as warding or dispelling magic. You can't bless air or anything that doesn't have physical form, but you can bless objects to fight back against other forms of magic.
If the walls were blessed with holy magic, the Demon Lord wouldn't be able to escape until we released him.
Why not just trap him forever?
Because then, I wouldn't be able to go home, Matthew. Yeah, that's a thing.
That's idiotic. He would still be a threat regardless. Holy magic doesn't last forever. And stone will crumble eventually.
He's right. We wouldn't be able to keep the walls up forever.
The situation became more and more complicated the more we discussed it. How are we going to go about this?
We can't just sit around and debate this forever. The longer we wait, the more we risk him striking back at us.
But is it worth killing someone to trap him?
When we finally strike, we will lose hundreds, if not thousands, of soldiers anyway. What difference will it make to lose one more life on top of this?
Soulless fuck.
We can still cage him in.
I bit my lip. It was a really tough decision. A curse or a trap, which was better? Both had their prices, but we had to choose one. From the look of it, no one wanted to speak up, so I felt the urge to say something. Maybe I would be the one to determine everything. But which method would be the best to choice? Everyone in the room looked at me as I finally spoke up. We need to be better than a demon lord. He was willing to sacrifice the lives to trap me here, but it only showed how desperate he was to win and how little he valued life. He would lose this war one way or another. It wasn't worth losing someone who could help turn the tide of the war. When can you put the barrier up?
We can leave after this, meeting is over.
Are you sure this is the best choice?
The curse isn't the only option. We need to show that we're better than him. Not that. No.
Self-voicing disabled.
No. Shush. Everyone nodded, some in reluctance, while the others did with confidence. I looked at Diana just in time to catch a twitch of her visible eye, but she shook her head and looked to the rabbit woman.
Are you quite positive this will work?
I am very certain. Since it will be just 3 of us going, we can shadow travel there and be back by the morning.
Diana looked at her guard and nodded.
Very well. If you believe it will work, then I trust you will make sure it does.
As the guard nodded and slightly bowed, the other demons seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Were they worried about performing the curse? Diana shook her head before crossing her arms and looking at me directly.
So, since you'll be here for a while, we might as well give you names that you can use to refer to everyone here.
Are we getting human names?
Must we?
Yes, we must. Diana rolled her eyes and gestured to the demon, naming them on the fly.
For the sake of time, we'll use simple names. This is Rabbit, our magic advisor. Sergeant, commander of our armies. Shadow, leader of our assassins. And Faye, our nomadic force ambassador.
Sergeant? I'm a commander, succubus. Shouldn't my name be Commander?
It's easier on the tongue, though, to say Sergeant.
My lady, what shall they call me?
Diana looked at Sato for a moment. Right there. Before turning towards me, a look of seriousness emanating from her eyes.
You may call him Sero. He is my personal guard, and he is always by my side.
Okay, promise, you can stay there. The other demons and Seto seemed to be surprised. Was Seto his true demon name? Why would she give me his true name?
Are you sure?
Call him only if your life depends on it. Do not abuse this permission.
Her eyes seemed to burn as she gazed into mine. Full of hard intent and warning, I mentally noted seriousness as she ran a hand through her hair.
Well, now that we have a plan and introductions are out of the way, I believe we can end this meeting. We have a lot to accomplish in 1 week.
What about us? You don't expect us to sit around.
Actually, I do. You all don't belong on the battlefield.
Whoa. Huh?
I don't think she's ever said that line before. Huh.
I will not take untrained and unarmed beings into a war zone.
Hold on. I interjected, stepping forward and crossing my arms with Diana. She seriously wasn't going to make us stay back while she fought the Demon Lord, was she? Diana squinted at me, pressing her lips together into a fine line. However, I meant what I said. We could fight too.
You expect me to trust that you can fight in a war?
Let me and my brothers train then. We're demons, for fuck's sake. You know how to fight.
The boys stared at Diana as she turned her head towards Sam. He was right, though. They knew how to train, so they knew how to fight. Right? That's how it works. If they fought with the rebellion, there would be a better chance of winning this war.
You all realize this is a war, correct? You can die here.
We understand completely.
We understand, Diana.
Carrie looks like that soccer mom. Just saying. Diana can only stare at our group as we challenged her proclamation. I wrapped my hand around my fiance's arms, frightened at the idea of participating in a war, but knowing that we needed all the strength we could muster to finish off the Demon Lord. This was the only way I could go home. Defeated, Diana sighed and rubbed her temples.
Very well. I can't exactly keep you here like prisoners, so it will be up to you if you choose to train for battle. However, I highly suggest just staying here and allowing us to handle it.
I nodded, as did the others. This was really happening. We were going to kill the Demon Lord, and we had 1 week to either prepare for war or wait it out. Diana turned towards me and looked down at my outfit. I nearly forgotten that was still my wedding dress until Diana pointed to my chest.
Lumen infere, velum tabescere.
Oops, sorry. Whatever. I stared at her, unsure of why she was speaking in Latin, until I felt the fabric around my body shift and change. I quickly looked down to see my wedding dress warp into an outfit that looked perfect for the demon world. The white top shifted into a long-sleeved, oversized tunic with a leather corset and vest, while the bottom part of the gown split and wrapped around my legs, forming into dark leggings. My shoes stretched up to long knee-high boots.
Wow. Very nice outfit.
Not as nice as your kitty socks. Couldn't get that out for a second. I blushed, getting used to the feeling of the outfit. The corset wasn't tight, but it was still something new along with the rest of the garb. Erik, however, smiled down at me and kissed over my forehead.
You look wonderful, princess.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbit. You both should finish your preparations and head over to the Demon Lord's castle for the spell.
How are you going to get there?
I'll get us there, no problem.
Just make sure we don't get stuck there or lost.
No promises.
Zero, make sure the job is done.
I shall, my lady.
Seto, Faye, and Rabbit began to make their way out of the room as Diana turned to me and my group. As they left, Diana let out a small sigh.
I will take you to some rooms you may rest in.
Thank you, Diana. Diana merely nodded and led our group out of the room towards our new temporary rooms. I'm gonna end it here because I'm tired. And reading makes me tired. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye!